Good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of An Hour with Bob. Here we are tonight on what I'm going to dub Italian night. Everybody we got here has got an Italian last name, even yours truly. As you know, my last name is Venturini, even though I'm only half Italian, but I wish I was all Italian. Because there are those that say there are Italians and there are people that wish they were. Have you ever heard that saying? Hey, did you go to the Rhode Island Monthly event down at PPAC a couple weeks ago? I'm not in here for some reason. They didn't put the best talk show host in here. They were supposed to do that. I talked to the editor of this magazine a couple years ago about adding that as a category, but they didn't do it. You know, the best talk show host. Not that I would, well, maybe I would win. Well, I know I won the PEG Award for the best talk show host. Anyway, folks, tonight we're going to have a fun show. It's going to be a loose show, and we're going to talk about sugar tonight. In fact, I'm eating a sugar. It's not sugar-free. My doctor will be mad. I'm eating a sugar lifesaver, a lifesaver that had sugar in, I should say. But sugar is our worst enemy, you know. And we'll get to that as we go along in the show. It's amazing to me to find out how much sugar is in everything we eat, and why. The reason why there is so much diabetes in this country is because of the massive amounts of sugar we eat or drink. Soda is the worst. If you're drinking soda, it's crazy, the amount of sugar in a glass of soda. 12-ounce can of soda. It's amazing the amount of sugar that you're putting in your body. And I myself, years ago, I used to drink soda like a madman. 2 or 3 cans of soda a day, maybe more. And that amounted to like a pound of sugar. We'll get to that anyway. Anyhow, I got an author with us. And he wrote this book right here. The Hanging and Redemption of John, is that G? That's a G, Gordon. John Gordon, huh?
That's right, John Gordon.
And who have I got here? Paul Caranci.
Right.
How you doing, Paul? Nice to see you.
I'm doing well, Bob. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Now, I have seen you before, by the way, around.
You have.
You're from North Providence, right?
I am.
And all Italian.
All Italian. Both
Where?
sides.
Where's your family from?
My grandparents are from Italy.
Yeah. Do you know where?
Campobasso.
What part?
Campobasso. It's
Central Italy
to northern Italy.
All right, so here we got a good mix. My family's from northern Italy. Your family's from central part of Italy, and our singer's family, April, is from southern Italy. Ah. In fact, from the island even, right?
Really?
From the island, from
Sicily.
Sicily
And Naples.
A Sicilian,
Yes.
huh? You know what they say about Sicilians, don't you?
I don't think I want to know.
No, you don't. Well, we'll get to you in a minute. You hang out there. That's April. So, what possessed you to write this book?
Well, I always wanted to write a book.
Right.
But I just didn't think I could. And my writing started out pretty much by accident. I went to the North Providence School Department when I took a pretty big interest in history, particularly local history of North Providence.
Right. Oh, that's why you wrote the other book.
That's
here.
right.
I was going to get to that after. So you want to get to that first? We'll talk about that
Sure,
first.
okay.
Since that was your first.
That was my first book.
Your first book.
And I just started looking at all of the historic sites in North Providence. North Providence was incorporated back in 1765. So it's quite old. I'm sorry, 1675. It's quite old. And it has a tremendous history that impacted not just the town, but the state as a whole. And when I started to see the significance of all of the contributions that North Providence residents made, from Stephen Only, who was a captain in the Revolutionary War and saved the life of President Monroe, on
that's
to
what they named
the Stephen Only Park.
the park in the water there. That's Lincoln Woods is the only pond, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Big family, the Onlys, Onlyville. But then Zachariah Allen, who made tremendous contributions in the Industrial Revolution, and actually his mill, the Allendale Mill, established a lot of firsts in the mill industry. He also started Allendale Insurance Company, and he started one of the first insurance companies that focused on insuring mills that were built with fireproofing materials so that they were relatively safe. And anyway, I started to learn about the contributions and thought, gee, I've lived in the town. I'm a third-generation resident of North Providence, and I didn't know any of this. It's something that really should be taught in our schools. So I went to the school department and asked if they would consider teaching a local history section in their history curriculum. And they loved the idea, but didn't have anything to teach with. So I said, well, if I write a book, a history book on the town, would you use it as a teaching tool?
So you actually put the cart before the horse.
I did, yeah. And I guess we'll talk about horses later, right?
Yeah, we are going to talk about horses in a little while.
But yeah, I did, and they loved the idea. They told me to go ahead and do that, and I researched and I wrote the book, but then I needed to have it printed. And I wasn't going to publish it. I was just going to ask a local printer to. And
you got a lot of pictures in here of buildings, local buildings, people.
Yeah, the book is actually 16 biographies and then a walking tour of 4 of the villages in the town.
Now, what's Greystone? Is that a village?
Greystone is one of the villages.
Right.
Yeah.
Maryville.
Centerdale. Lymansville. Fruit Hill.
Now, where is that, Lyman?
Lymansville is down Wenasquatucket along the river. It goes right into Providence at the Manton section.
Now, was North Providence ever a part of Providence?
North Providence was part of Providence, and when Roger Williams came, one of the followers that came with him was Thomas Angell. Thomas Angell ended up settling that part. Yeah, there were 5 people with Roger Williams that separated and each settled in different places. Thomas Angell separated on the land now known as North Providence. And that's why the Angell name is so big in North Providence. And then what happened was the
So it wasn't settled by Italians?
It wasn't settled by Italians, not originally. We were latecomers. Yeah, we were latecomers to the show.
You took over after?
Yeah, much later.
It's like the Roman Empire.
Yeah, actually, Frank Scambato was one of the first Italo-Americans that made a name for himself in North Providence, and he was huge in the labor movement, responding and reacting to a lot of the injustices that took place in the mill industry, with kids as young as 12 working 15, 16-hour days under terrible conditions where a lot of them got hurt. And he addressed a lot of those issues in the labor laws that we now have. So in any case, I put the book together and then found out that it was going to cost about $12 to $14 a copy to have it bound.
Holy cow, to have it bound.
Yeah, and I promised the school department about 225 copies.
Well, so being Italian, and I know this from personal experience, that when you make a promise,
you have to keep it.
You have to keep it.
Yeah. And I panicked because I wasn't able to keep that one financially. And,
wow, yeah.
By coincidence, that same weekend that I got the bad news about the cost of publication or the cost of printing, I got an email from the History Press saying, yeah, we publish local history books if you know anybody that has one.
Cut it out.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
There was a little questionnaire there, and I filled it out. I sent it in by email. That was on a Sunday. On Monday, the publisher called and said, we want to do it.
The History Press.
Yep. So they published it, and I was able to use a small grant that I got to buy enough copies to provide 225 to the school
To
department.
the school?
Yeah.
How cool is that?
So now they'll be using that, or they have been using that,
As a tool, as
a teacher's book, and all the students get free copies, and they teach a local part of history.
Wow. Well, before we get into your other book,
Okay.
I got to introduce my other guest. It's I can't take it any longer. She's over there, standing over there, sitting over there, she's thinking about her horses. April, how you doing?
I am well. How are you, Bob?
April, it's Renzella.
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 That sounds like a monster.
Yeah, Renzella. No, it's Renzella. No, I like
Yes.
Renzella better.
Me too.
Renzella. Let's tell your mom that. Renzella, it is. Mm-hmm. Now, you hail from where?
Kind of everywhere. But I'd say that I grew up in Topsfield. That's where I spent most of my time.
Topfield.
Topsfield, Mass. Yes.
Now, that's north of Boston for all you local folks. Mm-hmm. That's between Boston and Gloucester, right?
Yeah. More Gloucester and Newburyport, so kind of that New Hampshire border.
Oh, wow. So you're up there, huh?
Yes.
Wow. And you're in, where you go to school at
I
Stonehill?
go to Stonehill, yes.
And we talked about your love for horses.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And how close you are to history right now. You are within feet of the grandstand, the former grandstand, still standing, by the way. The grandstand's still there.
Okay.
The grandstand of the old Narragansett racetrack where I used to work as a kid. Mm-hmm. Cleaning out stables and walking horses and exercising horses. Mm-hmm. And you ride them.
I do, yes. I have been riding since I was 3 years old, and I was fortunate to get my first pony. It's a little pony. Now I ride the big guys. But first pony was at 6 years old, and I started horse showing. And to kind of segue into why I'm here today, I used to stay at the barn, and all they would play was country music. And so when most people ask me what type of music I sing, and I say country, they get a little bit confused because I'm a homegrown Massachusetts girl. So listening to the country music station, I kind of picked up the twang, and when I started singing, that's what I sang. So Dixie Chicks and Shania Twain and Leanne Rimes, that's what I grew up knowing, so that's where my voice came from.
Now, what's this about singing with Chicago?
I sang with Chicago.
The band Chicago?
The band Chicago, yes, about a year ago at the Comcast Center, which was an unbelievable opportunity. And what?
Wow.
Yeah, I loved it. What Chicago does when they have their tour is they have a raffle. And all of the proceeds of the raffle go to the American Cancer Society. And my mom had actually pushed me to do this every year, and I wasn't quite ready yet. And it took that summer, my grandfather actually had mesothelioma, so lung cancer. And he had passed away that July, and the end of July is when the raffle came up. So I had a connection to the American Cancer Society with that. And so that's the year we decided to participate in the raffle. And I won, and I got to meet Chicago and sing with Chicago at the Comcast Center. I sang If You Leave Me Now with them.
Wow,
Yes.
How cool is that?
Yes, it was a blast.
Now you got some upcoming shows, right?
I do, yes. October 12th at the Topsfield Fair. I believe it is at 1:30. If you
Now that's
check-
like our Washington County Fair, which is going on right now.
Yes, a little bit like that. And I will be in the main picnic area. For more details on that, you can go to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/April Renzella Music, and that'll have updates on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Now what are you going to sing for us tonight?
I'm going to start out with Baggage Claim by Miranda Lambert, who's one of my favorites.
Baggage Claim, you got that, John? All right. By Miranda
Lambert, as
Le-
I've been
Lambert?
corrected.
That would be French.
French, yes.
Is she French?
I guess so. I have been dragging around your sensitive ego, making sure that your bags arrive on time for the dog and pony show. A leather suitcase like a brick, Kinda makes it hard to get a good grip. I drop your troubles off at the conveyor belt. I hand you a ticket to go get it yourself. At the baggage claim, you got a lot of luggage in your name. When you hit the ground, you feel lost and found, 'cause it ain't my problem now. I can't carry it all. I got a lot of troubles of my own. It's all over the yard and the trunk of the car. I'm packing it in, so come and get it.
A baggage claim, huh? Oh, very nice.
Thank you.
We're going to do a couple more for us in a little while.
I will, yes.
And my buddy, guy who was here last show, Tim Sharon, is
Okay.
on stage. He's on the main stage at the Washington County Fair tomorrow night,
Ah, very nice.
which will be too late for anybody that's watching the show to see, but he'll be on stage. That'll be Thursday night. Because this show is being taped on a Wednesday. Usually we tape on a Monday, as you know, but we're taping on a Wednesday because of the holiday that only in Rhode Island can you have a holiday like that. Back to the sugar. Did you know, Paul, that sugar consumption in this country in the 1700s, just to give you an idea, the average person consumed 4 pounds of sugar a year in the 17th century, 1700 period. 1800, it was 18 pounds of sugar.
Per person?
Per person.
Wow.
1870 was 47 pounds per person. By the 1900s, the average American consumed 100 pounds of sugar a year.
Wow, most of that's in my household, I think, too.
It was what?
Most of that's in my household.
Yeah, and now we're doing better. We're down to 77 pounds of sugar a year.
Amazing.
That's 22, not teaspoons, tablespoons a day of sugar. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I can understand the
77
problem.
pounds of sugar a year we consume. And white sugar is not good for you. You know, like I drink, now I've gotten to drink, I don't even drink diet stuff. I drink iced coffee with no sugar in it. I just gotten to, I gotten to be able to taste that.
Now, that doesn't include artificial sweetness, does it?
Right, it
Just-
doesn't, no.
Wow.
Which also now they're finding aspartame, which is in Coca-Cola and everything. Coke's trying to downplay it, but
Yeah.
aspartame is a bit of a problem with aspartame in cancer, they found.
Right.
So that's why I got off that years ago, because of that, the problem with aspartame. Anyway, back to you, Paul. Your second book here, well, you got the North Providence book, and then you decided, after you were successful here,
Well, the bug took hold.
The bug
Yeah,
took
yeah.
over. By the
Once,
way, I'm in the process of writing a book. How did you
Are
get?
you?
That's my yes. I have all the stuff together. I wanted to write. There's a couple books, couple ideas for books I have, and they're all about. Well, one's about my life, and I've been keeping a diary for like the last 40 years.
So you have a lot of it written already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how to put it down. You know, how do you put it down in paper?
You know, I found that to be the easiest part. The hard part was the research. Writing, I just started telling a story pretty much vocally.
Right.
And then the easiest way to do it, I didn't do it this way, I didn't need to, but the easiest way to do it is actually tell your story into a tape recorder and then transcribe it. And then just go back after it's transcribed and make the corrections. That's the easiest way to write.
Really?
Because you want to write pretty much like you would talk. You want to make it interesting. So,
Right.
you know, if you tell the story,
There'd
as
be
if
a
you
lot
were
of
telling
swearing in
friend. Well, you can edit that out if you have to.
No, but can't. Well, now these you can talk into the computer
And it
it'll
types.
type for you, right?
Yeah.
So if
If
I
you
tell
have
a
that
story like
technology.
that,
Yep, that's the easiest way to do it. A lot of people get blocked when they have to write something down. They can say it very easily. You know, if I said what's going on today, you could tell me what's going on today. But if I asked you to write down what you did today,
Right.
you'd have a bigger problem. So if
Exactly.
you just say it and then transcribe it, then you just get a few substitute words and think of a better way to express the sentence once it's written down. That's
Right.
easy.
well, maybe I will. You know something? Maybe I will get the software that allows you to say something and it types it for you.
Yeah,
maybe
that'll
I will
make it
get
very
that.
easy for
Because
you.
a lot of people say that I have some good stories. I tell some good stories, but
bet
they're
you do.
true stories. Some of the places I've been, some of the countries I've been to, some of the happenings, some of the things, the experiences, and that I've had in my life.
Just the people you meet on the show must be enough for a book.
Yeah, we've been doing this. This is we're in our 22nd year now.
That's amazing.
We've been here 21 years plus now.
Do you still do the adventures, Zachary's
Yeah,
adventures? Yeah.
the Bob's Adventures and the Zachary's
Yeah, yeah.
Adventures. Yeah, we still do that. In fact, my knee slowed me down. I had my knee replaced, and that really slowed things down.
So you have titanium everywhere.
I'm loaded with. I got titanium. Oh, wait a minute. I do.
Must be a nightmare in an airport.
I'm a nightmare everywhere. I had to go into a court with my nephew the other day in a district matter. Not a bad thing, folks. And I went through I had to bring these with me. This is my titanium plate in my neck.
It's amazing.
I got a titanium plate in my neck that has 5 screws in it. It sets off the alarm all the time. And there's the screws. You can see the screws there.
Gee.
It sets off the alarm all the time when I go in. And that isn't bad enough. Then I tell the guy, I said, by the way, he says, I go through the thing, and he says, check your pockets. I said, it's not in my pockets. I said, it's right in my neck and it's in my knee. Just get your wand and go in the knee and go in the... And by the way, this was in Athol. This was in Orange, Massachusetts, which is next to the town of Athol, Massachusetts. What a name for a town, Athol. So I asked him, I said, you in Athol? Are you familiar with Athol, Massachusetts?
No,
You don't know where Athol is, huh?
I don't.
Yeah, it's in northwestern Massachusetts for you.
Okay.
It's probably on a plane. It's probably on the same latitude as you are.
Okay.
It's up there in northwestern. John, it's getting warm in here. Is it getting warm in here? Anyway, let's talk about your new book here. Now, what is this? The Hanging and the Redemption of John Gordon. What is that about?
This is actually a fascinating story. In 1843, on December 31, New Year's Eve day, Amasa Sprague, who was a very wealthy Yankee industrialist in Cranston.
So what time we're talking about? What time frame? 1700s?
No, 1843.
1843.
Yeah. He left his house. It was a very cold day, and he left his house to go check the furnace in his mill to make sure that Monday, New Year's Day, Monday, the mill was still open. So we had to go check the furnace
Wow,
to make
the mill
sure
was going to be open New
they
Year's
could
Day.
operate. Yeah, wasn't a holiday back then, I guess.
No.
And
No, that's where the unions
Yeah.
were very helpful in
exactly.
stopping some of this stuff because
Yeah.
they were working them to death.
Yeah, and all the Irish Catholic immigrants that worked the mills had to go to church on New Year's Day. It was a
Right.
holy day of obligation,
Sure.
even though it wasn't a holiday. So they would have to go to Mass and then go work the mill. But in any case, on this particular Sunday, he went to check the furnaces, and then he decided to go check his cattle on his farm on the Cranston-Johnston border, right where the Pecasset River runs by St. Anne's Cemetery.
Wow.
And while he was walking there, he was accosted and beaten, shot in the arm, and then beaten beyond recognition by someone, or more than one, I don't know. And he was found, that was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He was discovered at about 4:30, his body was. And almost immediately, the very next day, John and Nicholas Gordon, two brothers who ran a store across the street from the mill, were arrested for the murder. The next day, 2 days after the murder, their mother Ellen, their brother William, and their friend Michael O'Brien were also arrested.
Wow. How many people can kill somebody?
And then they arrested the family dog.
No.
They actually arrested the dog because they found dog prints, paw prints, at the scene of the murder. And they arrested the dog to match up the paw prints.
Wow.
But the mother, William,
Now these
the
were
mother
the,
and-
were these the Johnston police or the
well, the Johnston forensic unit actually went and took care of the body because it was on the Johnston side of the Pecasset River.
right
But then the investigation was taken over by the Cranston. It
police?
should have been the Cranston sheriff, but it actually turned out to be the Sprague family. Amasa Sprague, the person that was murdered, his brother, William Sprague, was a former governor and now a U.S. senator. He resigned his seat in the Senate to come and lead the investigation.
Really?
Highly unusual that
Wow.
a family member would, and a non-elected officer of the law would actually lead an investigation. But the entire investigation focused on all of the evidence that might tend to incriminate the Gordon family. For example, any footprints that led from the murder scene to the Gordon household were examined. They were measured, they were tracked. Any footsteps that led away from there were just ignored. In fact, they were altered by the searches.
Uh-huh.
So it was a setup from start to finish. The
Yep.
trial was a scam. The mother, Ellen Gordon, and Michael O'Brien, the friend, and the dog were all released. But three of the Gordon brothers, William, Nicholas, and John, were indicted. They were charged, and they were tried. William and John were tried together in another very unusual move because obviously any evidence that's presented against one brother
Right.
might impact the jury's decision on the other
On the
brother,
other
even
brother.
though it had nothing to do with him. But it was part of the whole sham trial. And William was actually exonerated, and John was convicted. Nicholas Gordon, the other brother, went to trial after
Alone, yep.
alone. He was charged with being an accessory before the fact. William and John were charged with the actual murder.
Right.
So John was convicted. He was sentenced to hang. And despite overwhelming evidence that they found later on that clearly exonerated John.
Right.
For example, one of the biggest pieces of evidence they found was a gun at the scene of the crime that was all broken into pieces from being used to smash the skull of Amasa Sprague. And they claimed that gun belonged to the Gordons. And Gordons couldn't produce their gun.
Uh-huh.
So they said, well, your gun's
Your
missing.
gun's missing.
This
This
gun
is-
was
yeah.
found. It's your gun. Then they found out that William Gordon actually hid his brother's guns because in Ireland, if you had a gun and you were accused of a crime, the gun pretty much meant you were guilty. So he panicked. He hid the guns to protect the brothers.
Oh.
Turned out to be the biggest piece of evidence against him.
Sure.
Before the hanging, William said, hey, look, here's what I did. And he led authorities to the two guns he hid under the floorboards of his house. And now they had the guns, so they knew that it wasn't John's gun or Nick's gun that was used in the crime.
Right.
Yet they wouldn't give him a new trial. They wouldn't postpone the execution until after that evidence could be introduced at a new trial. They just went ahead and hung him anyway. They tried to hang him as fast as they could because they didn't want to really find the murderers. They wanted to incriminate this Irish Catholic family because there was a hatred of Irish Catholics
Sure.
back then. It was more a case of bigotry and hatred and prejudice than anything else.
Well, that was, but they were hated by who? The English, right?
The Yankee establishment, that's right, the English.
Yeah, because they were the
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxon Yankees that were
Protestants,
here
yeah.
then,
Yep.
right?
They were Protestant. They didn't like the Catholics.
Right.
Ireland was actually a colony of England back then. It wasn't its own country.
Right.
And it was an oppressed colony,
Yeah.
pretty much like America was when we were under British control.
Right.
So, there was a lot of bad blood between the Irish and the Irish and the English, and between the Catholics and the Protestants.
Right. Kind of spilled over from Northern Ireland and
Yeah.
Ireland, right?
Correct. So, in any case, John was hanged on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1845.
Wow.
And it immediately sparked a movement in the state legislature to abolish the death penalty.
Right.
Because they knew he wasn't guilty.
Right.
7 years later, the death penalty was abolished. And then 177 years later, Governor Chafee, in 2011, actually pardoned John Gordon. And that's a whole other piece of the story,
Wow.
which is very
Now,
interesting.
why did he pardon them?
Well, a state representative, Peter Martin, an Irish Catholic.
Peter Martin or Peter Kilmartin?
No, Peter Martin. He's from Newport.
Okay.
And he served with Peter Martin for a while in the legislature, and then Peter Kilmartin went on to be the Attorney General.
Attorney General.
So Peter Martin was interested in exonerating John Gordon after working with Ken Dooley, who wrote a play on the trial of John Gordon. Ken Dooley, another Irish Catholic, and all the whole movement was pretty much led by Providence College graduates, oddly enough.
Really?
Yeah, it was just a
And
coincidence.
this is all
but
in when? Oh.
this is 2010 and 11, and the play was in 2010. The pardon was in 2011. 177 years after the murder.
Wow.
But he's pardoned now, and people like Matt Smith, the former speaker,
Yep,
and
Matthew Smith.
John Hodman, the former public defender, Mike DeLauro, the assistant public defender, Dr. Patrick Connolly.
He's been on my show.
Yeah, oh, he's a wealth of knowledge. Amazing man.
Yeah, he sure is.
Yeah. But several
Resident
of these,
historian.
yes, he's the historian laureate now
Yep.
of the state.
Yep. Sharp
Oh,
guy. Very,
brilliant,
very
brilliant man.
intelligent guy. Listen, we want to hold you there because
Sure.
I want to really find out why you end up doing this book.
Okay.
What possessed you to write this book in the first place.
Okay.
And maybe we can find a little more about John Gordon's life. I want to find a little more about this young lady's life. April, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What song you got for us now?
I'm going to take it back a little bit to She's Got You by Patsy Cline.
Patsy Cline.
Yes.
Wow, that is taking it back. You ready, John? All right. Patsy Cline. I remember this song.
I've got your picture that you gave to me, and it's signed with love, just like it used to be. The only thing different, the only thing new. I've got your picture, she's got you. I've got the records that we used to share, and they still sound the same as when you were here. The only thing different, the only thing new. I've got the records, she's got you. I've got your memory, oh, has it got me? I really don't know, but I know it won't let me be. got your class ring that proves you cared, and it still looks the same as when you gave it to you. The only thing different, the only thing new, I've got these little things, she's got you. I've got your memory, has it got me? I really don't know, but I know it won't let me be. I've got your class ring that proved you cared, and it still looks the same as when you gave it to you. The only thing different, the only thing new, I've got these little things, she's got you.
Very good. The young Patsy Cline.
Thank you.
Am I glad I don't have to compete with April?
I know, huh? Renzella.
Yep. You're getting better every time.
April Renzella. Renzella. You should be selling pizza, too. Singing about pizza. Singing an Italian song. Can you sing any Italian songs? I know you can't now, but do you know any Italian songs?
You know, I do, actually.
Really?
I do.
Or maybe we'll have you doing a cappella.
Maybe.
We'll have that. A couple facts for you. A couple crazy facts for you. Where am I? Where's my camera? A couple crazy facts for you. I did say that the United States consumes, average person, 77 pounds of sugar a year, refined sugar. But we're not the top one. We're not the worst one.
Oh.
You know who is worse? Far and away the worst. Believe it. This is hard to believe, even for me. Country I've been to, didn't like very much, but I went to one of Bob's Big Adventure. It's the first country I've ever actually left before I planned on. I left 5 days before I was going to leave. I disliked the place so much, and that's Brazil.
Brazil, I was going to say, I can't imagine.
Brazil.
Wow.
And they're realizing it now with they got the riots down there. They got and by the way, 2014 is going to be the World Cup there. 2016 is the Summer Olympics there, and I think they're making a huge mistake because that country is so messed up. It's crazy down there. Oh, it's brutal down there. They average the consumption of sugar. We're 77 pounds per year per person. They're 122 pounds per year per person. 120. Think about that, folks. 122 pounds of sugar per person. That includes every man, woman, and child in Brazil consumes 122 pounds of sugar. Second to that is Russia at 86 pounds.
So we're not even second.
No, we're not even third. Well, we are third. Yeah, we are third. Fourth is Mexico at 76 pounds. Egypt is next with 70 pounds, followed by or tied with the European Union with 70 pounds. 70 pounds of sugar. Can you imagine if you put it on the table here, 70 pounds of sugar per person that we consume? We don't realize sugar is in so much stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially, and the worst thing is soda. Soda, it's, I don't know, it's got like 9 tablespoons of sugar in one can of soda.
I know, if you get used to drinking a diet soda, and then you try to go back to a regular,
it's
too
ridiculously sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't drink either, and if I drink any diet or regular, they're both ridiculously sweet to me. And every once in a while, I'll grab a can of Sprite or something, and I can't drink the whole thing.
It's sweet. And was it in New York? I think they were trying to limit the size of the.
The mayor
soda
was.
you could
The
buy.
mayor was, and they got laughed out.
Yeah.
He got laughed out. But the fact of the matter is, he was trying to do something good.
Yeah.
Just like the gun thing. The gun laws. They have the most stringent gun laws in the country. Now they're being challenged in New York, saying that it's against, they're violating people's rights by searching them, the stop and search rule that they have in New York City.
Well, they have pretty high crime, despite the fact that obviously the gun laws aren't helping crime.
Well, they're helping a lot because you compare that to Chicago, the deaths, the murder deaths are ridiculously
Chicago's number
high
one,
in
yeah.
Chicago. Chicago, Detroit,
Yeah.
those two towns are very, very high compared to New York City. New York City is one of the lowest
Is it really?
crime, yeah, with
major
gun
cities.
crime, murders especially, are down drastically since they've gone all gung ho against guns. Anybody with guns, they're going after in New York City.
Wow.
Now, get back to this John Gordon, this book that you wrote, Paul. What possessed you to write this book?
Well, the publisher called and asked if I would consider writing a second book after I
The same
finished
publisher. This is
same publisher.
This is History.
The History Press. Yep.
Yeah.
And my publisher was Jeff Saracino, another fine Italian. And he called and said, they liked the first book. It was relatively successful. And he wanted to know if I would consider writing a second. So I proposed a couple of topics, and this was one I was interested in because I had just seen that play by Ken Dooley. And, the play was fascinating. The play focused on only the trial aspect of the whole thing, but it was fascinating. And I left the play, I hadn't really known much about John Gordon or the family,
Right.
the whole incident before that. When I left the play, I was just amazed and saying, gee, I wonder how much of this was true and how much was artistic liberty taken by the playwright.
Sure.
So I just did my own research just to satisfy my own curiosity. And I found out that not only was everything in the play true and accurate, but the play only touched on it because it only focused on the actual trial. There was so much more to the story that wasn't told in the play. So when I was asked to write a second book, I proposed this as one of the topics, and they said, we've always wanted someone to write a book on this subject. We heard a lot about it.
Really?
And yeah, we'd love you to do it.
Now, where is this place out of, this History
They're out of
Press?
South Carolina, Charleston. Yeah, and it's a very fine publishing house. I mean,
Right.
nobody's going to get rich writing a history press book, that's for sure. But, most authors don't write for the money. They write
Right.
because it's a passion, and they just love to research and express themselves. And that's how I found myself. That's the category I found myself falling into. So, when they asked me, I jumped at the chance, and this is the result.
Now, where was he from?
John Gordon was originally from Ireland. I don't know what part of Ireland.
Right.
But the family immigrated here in 1836. Actually, Nick Gordon came here in 1836 by himself. And he set up a small business. He had a little store where he sold notions and needles and threads and things like that. And eventually applied for a liquor license. Was granted a liquor license from the Cranston Town Council. It was a town back then.
Right.
And he could sell alcohol by the bottle. And then he asked if he could sell alcohol by the drink. They gave him that license, and he started to make a lot of money. So he sent for his entire family, and that was in 1843. They arrived in June of 1843. And just 6-7 months later, they were all wrapped up in this.
Right.
The entire family was destroyed. William became a raging alcoholic as a result of the guilt of knowing that his decision to hide the guns and then not say anything about it
Right.
probably led to his brother's execution.
Sure.
Nicholas Gordon spent 2.5 years in prison. Prisons back then, the prison was located right where the Providence Place Mall is now. That was the site of the old prison. And, they weren't like prisons today. They were dirt floors, they were cold and damp, and people who spent any significant time there generally came out so sick that they didn't last long after
Right,
that.
right.
So Nick Gordon was 2.5 years in the prison. He died 6 months after he got out at
Wow.
the age of 39. John Gordon obviously was executed at the age of 29, and William died of alcoholism at the age of 57, but he spent most of his life after prison in the Dexter Asylum up on the east side where the Brown Coliseum is now, the sports complex.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that was an asylum back then. They dealt with destitute people and
Sure.
people that were alcoholics and whatnot, and William was at that point. The mother, Ellen, died 6 months after William died of kidney disease.
Wow.
So the whole family was destroyed as a result of this whole experience.
Oh, sure. It had to do that. I'm waiting for somebody to write a book. I'll give you a topic for you, a historical topic that the state of Rhode Island gets the short end on. They claim the Revolutionary War was started by the Boston Tea Party, right?
Right?
That's not true.
I know it's not.
It's not true. It was started in Patuxent Village,
It's correct.
the Gaspee. A bunch of guys got. Well, first of all, they used to run these the ships that they were running here, the American schooners, English, what do they call them, Yankee schooners. They didn't draft a lot of water, so meaning they didn't. They could go in shallow water.
Right.
Well, they had this Gaspee chase them, and it chased them in the shallow waters of Patuxent Village there, and it got grounded. And they were not happy with the fact that they were being taxed on everything. And it was a tax ship, the Gaspee. And they went to a bar room one night, a bunch of guys got together, and they decided to torch the ship. They went out and torched the ship. They threw the guys overboard.
Yeah. They shot the captain.
They shot the captain. They didn't kill the rest of the guys, though. They just threw them over.
Well, the captain didn't die. He was wounded, and they took them all prisoner.
Yep.
Yeah. The History Press actually published a book by Rory Raven called The Gaspee.
Oh, really?
And it talks about that very thing, yeah.
But why does over the?
Yeah.
They threw boxes of tea over the side. That's all they did.
Disguised
And that
as
was what,
Indians.
8 months later?
Yeah, well, it's longer than that.
Was it longer?
Yeah. Then they disguised as Indians. They didn't even have the courage to just go out and
Yeah.
say who they were.
They were in disguise like
Yeah.
Halloween. They
Yeah.
thought they were in Halloween. Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah.
right. Whereas these guys had the guts to go right there and confront them,
Right.
shoot the captain, and get the rest of the guys. They shot the captain because he was attacking them, apparently. And they didn't kill the rest of the guys. They just threw them overboard. And they lit the ship on fire.
Yeah.
In protest.
And they have the reenactment every year at the Gaspee Days in Patuxent.
But it doesn't get the historical credit.
No. No, Boston is a bigger city, I guess, so it gets the credit. But you're right. That was the first act of violence in the Revolution.
Yeah. Just like the United States Navy was started in Rhode Island. Do you know that?
By a gentleman named Isaac Hopkins, who was in my first book on North
Really?
Providence. Yeah.
Yeah?
He was a North Providence resident, and he was the first admiral. It was also probably the first incident.
Do you know where it was started?
I would assume Newport.
No.
No?
East
Where?
Greenwich.
Really?
Yeah. East Greenwich. The Rose and the Providence, the two ships. I think the Rose and the Providence were the two ships that began the first Navy, the
wow.
United States Navy. You were going to say?
Isaac Hopkins was not only the first admiral appointed, but he was probably the first incidence of nepotism in Rhode Island, because his brother Stephen Hopkins was a governor.
I know that name, Stephen Hopkins.
He was a governor of Rhode Island, and he was in the Continental Congress, and he convinced them to appoint his brother the first admiral.
Wow.
Yeah.
So his brother became the first admiral of the Continental Navy.
And his house still stands right over near the Chad Brown complex. It's a big yellow house.
Really?
Yeah, Isaac Hopkins' house. There's a monument to him in over in Charles and Branch Avenue, right near St. Anne's Church there. It's a big monument to Isaac Hopkins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's Hopkins Square.
Well, there's an awful lot of history that most people don't know about Rhode Island.
Right.
That occurred. There's a lot of things, a lot of firsts in Rhode Island. In fact, years ago, I took on a big director. I sent letters to him. I was so mad because somebody said a disparaging remark about Rhode Island. It was the guy that played on Hill Street, and the big director. He had I can't even think of his name. He had several cop shows out at the time, and I sent them, and I sent this whole thing of this for us, Rhode Island. They started the Industrial Revolution, all this kind of stuff. The U.S. Capitol. No, we were the first to against
That's right. First to
the
declare.
British to declare.
Well, last to sign because we wanted a Bill of Rights, and we wouldn't sign until they instituted a Bill of Rights for us. So that's why it was a virtuous
We were the
reason why.
13th of the colonies to sign, but the first. That's why our Independence Day is 2 months to the day before the
That's right. It's,
July
May,
4th.
May 4th, yeah.
May 4th
Yeah.
is our Independence Day. So what kind of book you're up to now? You got another idea?
Well,
on a book?
I do. I'm writing a book now on political corruption in Rhode
Oh
Island.
God! In Rhode Island?
Yeah.
Now, being the deputy Secretary of State, you probably have seen a bit, huh?
Well, yeah, I've been around politics for a while in Rhode Island. So yeah.
So haven't I.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I've been alive through a lot of the corrupt stories that I'm writing about,
Right, right.
and I know a lot of the players that were involved.
You would think after all these years they would change the system we have in this state is so much different from other states in that the speaker has so much power,
Yes.
so much more power than the governor, which absolutely makes no sense. Because the last, and I researched this, the last 3 speakers got elected, every one of them by less than 5,000 votes.
Really?
By less than 5,000. Gordon Fox is the highest of the last 3. He averages getting elected with less of 4,800, 4,900 votes. John Howard before him, Murphy before him. It was Howard, Murphy, then Fox. John Howard's from my district. He got elected with like 2,800, 2,900 votes. Murphy from West Warwick, he got elected with like 2,200 votes. And Gordon Fox got elected 4,900 votes, and they have more power than the guy that gets elected by 130,000 votes. It just makes no sense.
It's an interesting system.
Yeah.
But, it's not...
It's a troubling system is what it is.
But I guess it's not the so much the speaker as the legislative branch that has the power, and that
right. Well,
that
they have the power,
encompasses-
but the speaker controls the legislative
controls
branch.
it. Correct.
I mean, their budget alone. Do you know what their budget is?
I'm not sure. No.
Their spending money that they have to spend on whatever they want. Last count was $66 million. Wow. Now they got the Capital Television. I heard yesterday their budget is $1.5 million. I do this show for zero, no budget. This show is better than anything they produce on Capital Television.
But it does go a long way toward transparency, which is a good thing.
Right.
Now the sessions are on TV. A lot of the committee meetings are on TV,
Right.
and they're streamed live. Many of them, if you can watch them on
Okay.
your
Well,
computer.
my question to them or you is, why don't they just have the colleges run the thing for nothing?
I don't know, like C-SPAN kind of.
Yeah, no, have you got Rhode Island College close by.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Have the college take over Capital Television, run Capital Television. All they need is 2 or 3 cameramen. That's all they need. I heard the director of programming makes like $70,000, $80,000 a year. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I know the general manager, and it's only they only work like 6 months a year, right?
This session goes about 6 months.
Yeah, so they work 6 months a year, and they get the guy that the general manager of Capital Television is from the Midwest. Took that job, got a nice score there. He gets, I think it was like $66,000 a year for a nice part-time job. That's a hell of a part-time job, $66,000.
Is it part-time?
Sure, they don't work
Well,
all
the
year.
legislature's part-time, but
Yeah.
does the staff work part-time, or are they there full year-round?
What do they do year-round?
Well, I know one of the things they did was my office happened to be involved in this. My boss did a documentary type thing
Right.
on a tour of the State House, which is now online.
Oh,
on the
that's good.
Secretary's
Yeah,
site.
stuff like that is
So,
necessary,
little
though.
projects like that. I think.
Right,
I don't
right.
know if they
But I
do
mean, I could
all
put
the
that
time.
together in a day.
Yeah.
For chump change. But no, I just heard it today or yesterday on the radio somewhere. They were talking about it. One of the guys that works is the son of one of the legislators, some woman legislator. Obviously, you say nepotism, throw him in there, and he's making a damn good pay doing very little. I mean, that job doesn't require much. I mean, I could do that job standing on my head.
Yeah, I don't know.
Standing
about
on my
those
head.
jobs.
And they hired a radio guy to do the job. That's what really was strange to me. They had a guy from out of town, and he was on radio. He wasn't even a TV guy. I thought that was odd. I mean, he's a nice guy, but I just thought it was odd. Anyhow,
Interesting.
so your next book is about corruption. I got a few
Political
for
corruption.
you. I got a few.
Okay.
I can add a few into that.
Give me some chapters. Yeah.
Oh, I can do that.
Okay.
I know John Howard. In fact, the most corrupt and well, I shouldn't say most corrupt. The most powerful Speaker of the House, as I just mentioned, Speaker of the House being the most powerful politician already. In my opinion, the most powerful Speaker of the House in history, in our history, who do you think it was?
My guess would be Harry Curvin.
On the nose. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Harry's my neighbor too.
Is he?
He's from here, from my neighborhood in Pawtucket. Yeah,
He was
from,
Speaker for a long
he
time.
was. I used to, when I was going to college, I said this on with John Howard. John Howard was here. I said this on the show. I used to live in Harry Curvin's supposed residence, and he had a phone in there, and part of the deal with the reduced rent was that I had to answer the phone if somebody called for Harry Curvin.
Really?
Yeah. Calling asking if Harry Curvin lived there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Harry Curvin lives here. Yeah, he's not here now though. He's gone. All right, we'll talk about that off camera, about corruption. Thank you for stopping by and spending an hour with Bob.
I appreciate the opportunity very much.
Thank you. And young lady, you got to take us out of this show tonight?
I am, yes.
All right, what do you got for us?
The Wreckers, Leave the Pieces.
All right, let's do it. John, go for it.
You're not sure that you love me, but you're not sure enough to let me go. Baby, it ain't fair, you know, to just keep me hanging around. You say you don't want to hurt me, you don't want to see my tears, so why are you still standing here just watching me drown? And it's alright, I'll be fine, don't worry about this heart of mine. Just take your love and hit the road. There's nothing you could do or say, you're gonna break my heart anyway. So just leave the pieces when you go. And you can't drag out the heartache, baby, you can make it quick. Really get it over with and just let me move on. But don't concern yourself with this mess you left for me. I can clean it up, you see, just as long as you're gone. And it's alright, I'll be fine, don't worry about this heart of mine. Just take your love and hit the road. There's nothing you could do or say, you're gonna break my heart anyway. So just leave the pieces when you go. You're not making up your mind, it's killing me, you're wasting time. I need so much more than that. Yeah, 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 yeah. And it's alright, I'll be fine, don't worry about this heart of mine. Just take your love and hit the road. There's nothing you could do or say, you're gonna break my heart anyway. So just leave the pieces when you go. Leave the pieces when you go. Oh yeah. Leave the pieces when you go. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. pieces when you go